Well, I decided to put my granddaughter's Jeep up. She left a key in it, left it parked out front.
And I couldn't miss this photo opportunity. I thought Joe looked so cute riding on her little Jeep, even though it does say adults could ride it.
Well, I don't know about all that, but anyway, I decided to go ahead and put it up. So I asked my wife this morning if she would like to ride up to Vicksburg and eat at a restaurant we ate at last year. We took a motorbike ride up to the Trace and rode up. So we're in Woodville. We rode to Natchez, and here in just a second, we're going to be getting on the Trace.
Yes, and it had been cooler this week here, unusually cooler, and so I guess I had that on my mind and wasn't thinking about this is July and how hot the day would get.
It did start out nice. So I ride from Woodville, which from where we live to Vicksburg is about 125 miles. You go to Natchez, you get on the Trace at Natchez, and the Trace runs from Natchez about 444 miles all the way to Memphis, Tennessee. But anyway, we only rode it about 120. Well, the total trip was only about 125 miles, and we're probably in the country 40-ish miles from where we get on the Trace. But the Trace is a beautiful road. It follows more or less the original natural trail. And I'll tell you this, actually, it is said that the Natchez Trace was really not built by people. Originally, the Natchez Trace was thought approximately about 10,000 years ago, was used by buffalo to migrate from the north down the south off of the Mississippi River. Now, the reason why you wouldn't follow the river because you get into a lot of, delta land would be marshy or swampy. So they actually created a path all the way from maybe even further than Memphis, but from Memphis all the way down towards Natchez. Eventually, the Native Americans started using it. So eventually, it's thought that the Native Americans started widening the Trace out, and they would use it for hunting routes, trade routes, and just migration. And then when later on in American history, as the settlers came into this area, they also used the Natchez Trace. And one interesting fact is the riverboats would come down the river, would float down as far as New Orleans. They would sell their boats because for the lumber, and of course they would use that lumber to build with in New Orleans. And the people on the boat would either walk or ride a horse back up the Natchez Trace as far as Memphis. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of history goes along. But guys, stick with us. We've got a really interesting thing we're going to get into on our way back home. In 1938, the Natchez Trace became part of the National Park Service. But as I was riding along, and by the way, the CCC did a lot of the work on the Trace back then, but as you ride along, you can see it's been widened out. It follows most of the natural route, but obviously this is not what it looked like. Here's actually a picture of what the old trail looked like. And they didn't alter this. This is along the side of it. But anyway, here's some cornfields. We're getting pretty close into Vicksburg, Mississippi, and that's where we're going to eat. And we're really not going to talk a lot about Vicksburg. There's a lot of amazing history. You could talk about a long time at Vicksburg, but we went on in there and found a good place to eat. Vicksburg is a beautiful town, but anyway, you may want to tour it sometime. But so we ate at Rusty's Riverfront Grill. And we just ended up splitting a shrimp po' boy with some fries, and it was wonderful. So on the way back, we decided to go a little bit different route. Here's just an old church there in Vicksburg as we're exiting. So we go down and hit the Trace again, and we end up going to tour Rocky Springs town. It's actually, its town pretty much is gone. Back, I think, around 1700s, people would stop there and water their animals off of the Natchez Trace because it was just a natural spring that people would use for a watering hole, and it ended up actually turning into a pretty big community. We're pulling up into what's left of Rocky Springs community.
And whenever we pulled up in here, I had asked Joe, I knew about it. I went when I was younger, years ago. But anyway, we pull up in here and we're looking, and as he's already told you, it's not very much left. It's really a ghost town. But what happened was after the Civil War was all the sickness and disease and different things that hit made this town that was hustling and bustling down to nothing now. And we toured some ghost towns, but this town really has nothing much left. Look at there, Joe. Here we go.
But anyway, so it's a beautiful little trail. It makes a loop, so it looks a little narrow, but it's plenty wide enough for a car. So we're easing up in here, and it's a lot of interesting history we read about the community. It's amazing that within a 25-mile radius of Rocky Springs, it was over 2,600 people that lived there.
Right, and there was quite a few graves still there at the graveyard too.
Yeah, it's a large graveyard there. And actually, there is a Methodist church that was completed in 1837.
And they have been restoring it over the past few years as a committee. I know I've read about this, done a lot of updating, so it looks nice.
So anyway, we're going to get off the bike and walk up to the church. In fact, that's the church right there. And in a second, you're going to get to see me do a little piano performance inside the church. Y'all, the acoustics in this building is beyond, it is just amazing. But, can you imagine, this church is still standing, was completed in 1837, and they still meet, I think, once a month. And so it's beautiful inside. And like Linda said earlier, it is a very large family community graveyard behind the church here. And we took a minute and just walked through the cemetery and just kind of looked at some of the dates and, just the amazing history. But here's some old pictures of the community, of the church, and some newspaper articles. Pretty interesting, but the church is still standing.
Hey Joe, let's go find the safe. I'm ready to walk on and see a few other things.
Well, y'all, a lot of interesting things here. So we walked around, we crossed this little bridge, and there was still the remains of a large iron safe. The door was missing, but the safe was still there.
And Joe, look over here. This tree, I don't know what kind it is, but look at the roots. Do you know?
Nope, I don't, but I think the ground's washed away from it. All right, well, that finished up our tour, so we're going to head on back down the road and head back towards Woodville. So we will be taking the trace all the way back to Natchez, Mississippi. But guys, I'll tell you, that was actually a very interesting tour. Sometimes it's amazing what you find literally in your backyard. I mean, that's probably only 60, 70 miles from our house where we live. We live in Wilkinson County, off the river, the Mississippi River. We live up in the hills away from the river. But anyway, I really enjoyed that. So we're going to get a little gas here in Natchez. We made it back, and I usually burn non-ethanol gas except when I'm traveling, but I didn't quite have enough gas to get back home. So I went ahead and put some super premium in it and before we hit the road. Now, this is an old historic thing in Natchez that's sometimes controversial. And this is the Houma-Chitto River bottom. You'll first see the Houma-Chitto River, which that name, Houma-Chitto, means man killer. It's an Indian name, and I was told it meant man killer because the Houma-Chitto River, in a second you're about to see, is bad with quicksand. It is, many people have drowned in this river, not because of the depth of the current, because of the quicksand will draw you in, and a lot of people have drowned in that river. But anyway, this is US Highway 61 South heading into Woodville, and this is actually coming past the Buffalo River. So now we're approaching the Buffalo River, and we're probably only about 15 miles east of the Mississippi River, so both the Houma-Chitto and the Buffalo eventually run into the Mississippi River, which then goes on into New Orleans, and from New Orleans out into the Gulf of Mexico. Just a little point of information, New Orleans originally, the mouth of the Mississippi River more or less ended right past New Orleans, but through the years, so much silt has created a lot of marshland, in essence put New Orleans way off of the Gulf. And this is our town where we live, Woodville, Mississippi. And so anyway, that wraps up our video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you ever get a chance, you ought to check out the Natchez Trace and some of the history of it. It's actually very interesting. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Comment and let us know. We appreciate you joining us on our journey today. Thank you. I'd like to add, next week I'm going to try to get back on working on that generator, bypassing its electronic stuff to a manual generator. So hopefully that'll be coming soon.